Welcome to Critical Junction episode 71. I'm Mark.
Hello. I'm Luke.
I'm Gilles.
And in 1989, in a live radio interview with investigative reporter George Knapp on KLAS-Las Vegas, Bob Lazar claimed to have worked on a recovered extraterrestrial spacecraft for the U.S. government in a section of Area 51 dubbed S4. It was there, he claims, he had read documents indicating ongoing research on an anti-gravity reactor powered by element 115. According to Lazar, element 115 could not have come from Earth because it is, quote, impossible to synthesize an element that heavy here on Earth. The substance has to come from a place where super heavy elements could have been produced naturally, end quote. Lazar points to the many reported sightings of strange lights hovering over the test site that engaged in maneuvers that defied conventional aviation technology as evidence of the veracity of his claims. Lazar also repeatedly hinted that he had taken a sample of element 115 from Area 51 and that the government was waging a covert war against him, which he says is the reason why his educational credentials from Caltech and MIT simply do not exist. However, it wasn't until 1992, after an appearance on Coast to Coast AM, hosted by credulous UFO enthusiast Art Bell, that Lazar's celebrity started to take off, and he went on to become a regular speaker at UFO conventions and a recurring guest on Coast to Coast AM throughout the 90s and early 2000s. That celebrity, though, was relatively short-lived and began to wane until earlier this year, when he appeared in a new documentary on Netflix by George Knapp entitled Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers. In it, Lazar treads over familiar ground and repeats his story to the letter, all the while being positioned as a whistleblower calling out the government for their secrecy about backwards engineering alien spacecraft. In every interview and every documentary in which he has ever appeared, Lazar seems credible and appears genuine. His story never wavers, and he sticks to the facts as he interprets them. However, the appearance of credibility and the semblance of being genuine in no way guarantee what he's saying is, in fact, true. To date, Lazar has been unable to produce any independently verifiable evidence to support his claims, and as we've learned by now, extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence. In the aforementioned Netflix documentary, they play up the fact that the warehouse of his business, United Nuclear Scientific Supplies, was raided by the FBI, making it seem as though they had come in search of the stolen sample of element 115. The truth of that raid, however, is far more mundane. United Nuclear Scientific is one of the few places where one can obtain various exotic materials, including thallium sulfate, which is used in the manufacture of electronics, as well in glass manufacturing and the pharmaceutical industry, and is described as quote-unquote the poisoner's poison, due to the substance's high toxicity and difficulty to detect. In 2015, 31-year-old Janelle Struzel, I think is how you say that, died of thallium toxicity, so as part of their investigation into the death, United Nuclear Scientific, listing thallium in their inventory, was placed under surveillance and later raided. Lazar, though, was not listed as a suspect in that investigation. So, in spite of the complete absence of supporting evidence, is there something to Lazar's claims, or is he just another huckster with a cool story that some people really want to believe? Let's talk about that, shall we?
Well, what did you go back to what you were saying in your intro about his education and why there are no records of him ever having been to Caltech or MIT?
Yeah, he claims, I think, a master's degree or something from both Caltech and MIT, but an actual scientist, looked into those credentials and talked to the professors that he listed as having studied under.
Yeah.
And they don't exist. The professors disavow any knowledge of the guy, and no one can find any indication of him ever having been to Caltech or MIT.
Mm-hmm.
So, why he's claiming this? Maybe to sound cool?
I mean, to be honest, I wasn't exactly super buddy-buddy with any of my teachers. I got an education, yet I know for a fact that none of my teachers, or maybe one or two teachers would remember my name, or remember me.
God, when I went to my high school reunion, it was the weirdest thing. The teachers that I had didn't seem to remember me, and the ones I didn't have remembered me? Like,
yeah,
what the hell?
So that kind of thing, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. That his teachers...
Yeah, that's not my focus. My focus is the fact that his records of having been there do not exist.
yeah. And so his explanation for that is that they would have been expunged because they're trying to
the government destroyed the records or whatever.
That's right.
Right. And let's say you do take some sort of a job where you do go, in a sense, incognito and undercover. It does make sense that the government could destroy all of your files and you know,
well, just by
destroy your background,
but
protect themselves by destroying your background, so that you appear to have never existed.
But let's just apply Occam's razor to that, though, and like the simplest answer is that he didn't go to those schools. Like
that's true. I also heard that one of the teachers that he claimed would probably remember him had never actually taught at Caltech, and he said it was one of his. He was asked, like, can you name any professor specifically from Caltech,
right,
that we know, and he named this one guy, and apparently that teacher had never taught at Caltech,
right,
taught at some other type of college, and did teach Bob Lazar at that other college.
Yeah,
but
why would he make it seem as though he taught at this other school? Like,
yeah, exactly. And so this was, and the person who had followed up on that lead was Stanton Friedman.
Thank you. I was trying to find his name. Yeah, it's the same guy.
So this is like a famous kind of UFO enthusiast that goes around trying to find evidence and checking out people's stories on UFO and aliens and stuff like that. So it seems like ultimately he wasn't buying Bob Lazar's story.
He wrote an entire piece about his search into Lazar's claims. That's where I pulled out this thing that I was talking about.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's really cool. He's like, no, none of this is real. None of this checks out. And yeah.
Well, I mean, how could it really? The stuff he's presenting, how can you possibly check it out?
Well, that's part of the problem, right? How can you, there's been no evidence to support any of these claims, and just it doesn't. He seems really genuine and credible.
I'm gonna say that's the most interesting thing with him as a character, is that he seems
how
to be
earnest he seems.
Yeah, he seems earnest. You've got all the people backing him up as backing up his character, kind of thing. And the way he's presenting it and talking about it, it almost seems as if he doesn't want to talk about it, and it's almost been troubling all his life, really. But okay, I'll talk about it every once in a while, kind of thing. But not for me, just to get it out, you know.
Yeah. But then that kind of strikes me as a little bit funny, since ever since the early '90s or late '80s, he's been like he says that he's uncomfortable doing all this stuff, but he's been doing it consistently for the past 25 years.
Yeah.
You know, doing these conventions,
playing the part of the reluctant,
the first interview was incognito, and I don't know how long it took for him to become known as that guy that did that interview. I mean, I think there was a large gap of time there. So that initial interview,
like a few years at least,
was to create created the phenomenon of him, but without any credit for it or anything like that. It would seem
he used his real last name, and I think he went by Dennis Lazar or something.
Okay.
But yeah, that was the foundation of this character that he was about to develop for the next 20-odd years, if not longer. It just seems it seems odd. It just seems really, really odd. Why go through all this trouble to? Is it because I don't know how much money he's making off of all these appearances. It can't be that much, could it?
Well, in the way they present him, it would seem that he's not really doing that kind of a thing. He's not out there selling books and stuff, is he?
No.
About this subject matter? Because, I mean, this whole thing has been capitalized on. People are doing that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And he could, and you know, if he were to do it, he would probably sell well, I would think.
At this point, yeah.
Like that unacknowledged guy there, Greer, I think is his name. That guy is
he's on the book tour.
He's doing a lot more to actually
we're meeting him in the documentary.
Cash in on
and we're picking up on that, right? You're watching this guy going, I don't know, scratch, you know what I mean?
Right.
I thought the Bob Lazar guy was a much more interesting character in that sense.
For sure.
He was more removed, and it seemed more like, this is troubling, but I guess I'll let you know a bit.
But maybe that's just
of course,
the tone of the character. He's more mousy, and I find that more appealing, or something like that. You know,
it seems more credible if I play it reluctantly. Kind of thing. Whereas if I just come out and say I did that, maybe people won't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Other people still don't believe it.
The science that he presented in the documentary, I'm assuming you guys are watching this Netflix documentary. What did you think of what he was saying, the science of it, sort of thing?
The one part that stuck out to me was the folding of this element 115 into a specific format so that it could generate the anti-gravitational propulsion. who told you that mattered? Like, why does folding this thing have anything to do with whether or not the propulsion system
Wasn't
works?
this the point where he was talking about it going, and this part here we don't understand, we just need to repeat the folding?
Yeah, that's the part I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, it was science that did go beyond him, is what he was basically saying.
But
Like it did.
that's not very difficult considering he's not an actual scientist.
No, I suppose you're right. He's not. So what is he then? What is this guy?
I don't know. He's just some guy.
Well,
What-
he's got some brains because in his younger days, he was like building rockets and turbo engines.
Yeah.
In his
Actually, some guy
in his parents' garage.
Some guy ran the numbers on what he claimed his rocket bike
Yeah.
could do, and they're like, no, that doesn't make sense. Like, you can achieve more propulsion using less energy than what he's claiming in this stupid bike thing.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, but is that the point though? The point is that he was building these rockets, that are spitting out a hell of a lot of energy out the back end of it, and he managed to do that as not much more than a teenager without blowing himself up.
Oh yeah, he's not.
So that takes some skill, right?
Yeah, he's not a total idiot.
Yeah.
By any means, but at the same time, he's not a full-fledged
Right.
scientist.
The way they're portraying him is that he's rogue. He's like this punk scientist kind of thing, right?
Right.
And that's why he was especially suited for alien technology. They needed someone that was going to look at things in a new way, and I mean, this makes sense, right?
Maybe
Looking
they needed someone who didn't have too many ties either to the known legitimate science community
Mainstream
and
science.
stuff, so that he could be kind of squirreled away or discarded as needed.
Yeah.
It makes for an interesting conspiracy theory.
It does, yeah.
But whether or not it actually happened is what I'm interested in.
The truth of it,
Yeah.
which in a sense we can just say right now, we can never know. We can't know, right? Until that spaceship that he's talking about lands in your backyard and has a big sign, and there's an alien in the window with a little sign that says Bob Lazar was here or something like that, and he's waving
Or they
it at us.
ferret him out of the ship.
You know what? Even then, we would see that, and we would go, I'm not sure.
Is that really the guy? Are you really Bob Lazar coming out of the spaceship?
We would assume we're hallucinating. Like, what I'm getting at is that, really, I don't think it's possible to make it appear real and true. Like, this stuff all could be very easily hidden from us, and we'd never know, I mean...
Well, without, unless we're able to verify it, then there's no reason to believe it.
No reason to believe it. No, I suppose you're right. What would the belief do, even if we were to believe it? Like, there's
What would
nothing
the
we can
belief
do with it anyways, Well, what would be the point in believing it?
Right. Yeah.
What can we do with it?
And what I don't get too is that if the government has this kind of technology and is reverse engineering it to a point where even if they don't fully understand the science, they're able to manipulate materials to recreate the effect. How come we're not actually seeing that in any?
What I'm gathering from it is
technology?
that they're able to get some effect out of it, but not the effect. Like having discovered these technologies has increased our knowledge, but still not enough to recreate, but to just still continue tampering with it and get some results out of it, kind of thing, is what I'm gathering from this.
Tinker with it until it blows up or works.
Yeah.
The weird thing is, so they find this crazy technology that's ostensibly from off-world, and they have to take it apart without dying. And, and I don't really know how that whole thing works. Something that I found.
Did they take a screwdriver to it? Like, how are you gonna do it? Like, how do you take this thing apart? And what was the process behind backwards engineering it?
Yeah, and I'm thinking about the TV. I saw the TV show Chernobyl. Not too long ago.
I was just thinking of Chernobyl too. Yeah.
And so,
great show, by the way. Chernobyl, if you're watching.
Yeah.
I'd like to sponsor them.
Very, very good show.
Watching
yes.
a podcast, yeah.
So the reactor core explodes, right? And there's little bits and pieces just kind of lying around everywhere, and the fire truck or the firefighters come come along and they're like just picking up stuff and tossing it aside, and just having touched something that was part of the reactor core.
Right. Now you're fucked.
You're fucked.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So if you're dealing with something that you have no idea what it is, like how do you prevent that kind of mistake from happening?
Right.
And I don't know. And apparently like the kind of energy that would be needed for this kind of propulsion system that he's been describing, where it's like you take matter and the element 115 kind of converts it to antimatter, and that creates like
the reaction.
The reaction which gives some amount of energy, and I'm not sure whether theoretically that amount of energy was enough to do the whole thing of like propelling something at light speed, which is the idea, right?
They recently discovered the actual element 115, which is super unstable, right? Like you can produce tiny amounts of it, but it has a really ridiculous half-life or whatever, and it just it disappears. It just
flies apart.
Yeah, and you can only produce a really tiny amount of it. Mm-hmm. Of actual element 115 before it evaporates or whatever. So you can't use it for what he's claiming that these craft use it for.
Well, I mean that's our, we can say that's our knowledge and our ability to control it at this point in time. There may be some other manner that we're not aware of that can, in a sense, harness it and contain it. You know? Maybe. Yeah, of course, maybe.
Maybe. I don't know. It seems so bizarrely far-fetched.
Well, and wouldn't it though? You know, like anything that's going to shift our knowledge of science is going to seem far-fetched, and we're going to go really, you know, and question it and just not believe it.
But the difference is, with something that'll push our limits to science, is the ability to test it properly, right?
Yeah.
His claims, have they been tested? Can you test them? What's the result of them? You know?
No. It's in a sense, it's way beyond it, and it would be, right, if we were to find alien technology. I mean, what the fuck could we do with it? But try not to die dealing with it, like you said. You know. Yeah. So even that could be decades of just trying to get to it.
Well, it has been decades.
You know? Yeah, right. It's been decades. And then by the time you get to it, isn't even still in existence and functioning. You know what I mean? Like we finally get to it, and
it's like an old version of the stuff they're using now. Like, oh, thanks, guys.
It's Microsoft 2.
Right. It's an old operating system that's no longer compatible with the other spaceships. You're just fucked. Like I would love for this shit to be real. I really would.
Well, of course. I mean, that's your thing, Mark.
I want to believe.
You want to look at the stuff and that you can't believe and believe it, kind of thing.
Well, no, it's more like I want to leave this planet and go explore the galaxy, kind of thing. That's why it would be cool if this were real.
And I suppose this is what the podcast is to you. You're exploring the galaxy with our voices and our brains shitting shit out at you, right?
It's mostly calling out bullshit.
Okay.
For me, but yeah.
You take great satisfaction in calling out bullshit.
I do. I love calling out the bullshit.
Okay, well, so for this then, I mean, honestly, there is no proof, so we can just say it's probably bullshit or it's possibly bullshit. I mean, we can't say one way or the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Really.
I don't even know if it's bullshit, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, I guess, part of the problem is not being able to distinguish between the parts of his claims that might be plausible and the ones that are total garbage.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you feel like he's riding the line there pretty nicely? Like he did it well? Like where it goes, maybe,
totally.
Okay.
Like just by virtue of the fact that he's appeared in all these documentaries and whatever, people are believing him to the point where they're saying, yeah, it sounds like it could be possible.
Right.
I can't even go that far. Like I don't know if it's even possible. Mm-hmm. You know, just my knowledge of science does not extend to that level.
So let's just look at the idea of what he's talking about. The idea that, now I think that we can agree that the three of us right now, we can look at each other and go, alien life exists on other planets. We can say it's pretty damn likely. We can go there.
I would go that.
Yeah, I would say it's entirely plausible for.
Now we can even go that they would be, that some of them would be technologically far superior.
I can't necessarily say that Because
I mean, the existence of the universe and how long it has existed, how long we have existed in the universe, for example. I mean, it makes sense that we would be... We're fairly young, is what I'm getting at. Right. We're little babies.
Yeah. What was it?
Technological diapers here, you know.
To know the sort of the scale of time, if you were to like extend your arm out, and that length be the like age of the universe.
Right.
If you just take a nail file and shave off. Just one stroke of the nail file on the end of your nail. That's the time scale on which humans have existed. Yeah,
and that's our whole existence.
Right.
Yeah.
The cosmic calendar is another visualization tool for that. Like if you condense the existence of the entire universe into like in Cosmos into a 12-month calendar, humanity exists at 11:59 on December 31st.
Oh, and that one I think is just looking at Earth, is it not? It's not even taking into perspective like the universe.
The cosmic calendar, I think, is about the age of the planet Earth.
Right. Yeah. And so we're just even like.
So we're babies within babies, is what I'm getting
exactly,
at.
Yeah.
So I guess this is what I want to say is that it just makes sense that there is alien life out there that is far superior, beyond our comprehension.
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, of course we don't know.
I'm just gonna say.
I'm just thinking with my logical mind that it makes sense.
In terms of how probabilities seem to work in the little microcosm that is the planet Earth and the human experience that we do have access to here.
Right.
It seems like on a probability scale, it's more probable that there are other things out there like us than that there is
that
nothing.
Have been around for longer.
Than that we're the only thing where something like this has happened. Well, because actually, when you think about it, like everything anybody does or thinks has almost on a 100% chance been done or thought of before.
Right.
Right? And the only way that we get this kind of perception of progress through time is through like everybody standing on somebody else's shoulders and just kind of building a tiny little bit on.
See, we're a sample size of
like
one.
Nobody invents anything out of thin air.
But we're a sample size of one in the entire universe, the entire known universe, right? We know of one example of life existing in the format in which we recognize it.
Mm-hmm.
So the likelihood of life existing elsewhere in the universe, statistically, it could very well be life could exist elsewhere on other planets. But what form does that life take?
Mm-hmm.
This advanced civilization of yours could be microbial for all we know.
It's still
we could just be the only example of this type of civilization within the entire cosmos. We just do not know because we have a tiny sample size. Statistically, we have no idea.
Think of how they look at it now compared to when we were kids. The universe has broadened quite a bit. Like, I remember when we were kids, it was like, oh, it's possible there's life out there, kind of thing. And now scientists are going, no, man, there's life out there.
Right.
Like, there may even be life on Mars. Or, you know, like.
Again, though, the question is, what form does that life take?
And what I'm saying is that I think really, if we're looking at things, let's just face it, there's going to be more evolved species than us. I mean, I think logically speaking, I can say this with quite a bit of confidence here, you know. I mean, we can't know, but I don't know. This is what I think.
It seems likely.
It's plausible.
It seems very likely is what I'm getting.
I'll go so far as to say it's plausible.
Plausible, right? Gilles, what are you giving me?
Yeah, likely.
Likely. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. It's better than plausible.
No. Better than.
Considering how flawed and limited we are and how easy it is for us to see what our limits are and what might lie beyond those limits, then it seems incredibly likely that something else must exist that actually does go to those very foreseeable sort of extents beyond the limits.
Right. I guess I'm trying to get you, Mark, to tap into the I know what you'll say in terms of what's provable and not provable, truth versus non-truth. But I guess I'm trying to delve into what you believe ultimately when you look at the universe, do you think there's aliens out there flying around? Are you believing in these UFOs? You know, and I know there's no proof.
So then you can probably answer that question.
Yeah, but I
See, when I say I believe something, it means that I have been convinced that that thing is either likely to be true or is, as close to true as we can get, right?
Yeah.
If you're asking me, do I believe that aliens exist in the way that we're describing them, as an advanced civilization? I don't know. I'm not convinced of that. So no, I don't believe it.
No.
I'm going to say it is plausible, maybe even likely, that such a civilization could exist. But do I believe one does? Not necessarily. I'm not convinced that such a civilization exists. I'm convinced that statistically the odds are favorable towards something like that occurring.
Yeah, I have no clue of proximity, or if we would ever witness it or anything like that. But I guess I feel quite certain that there is way more highly developed technological societies out there in the universe. I mean, this just makes sense to me.
To bring it back, though, if that's the case, how difficult would it be for them to get to Earth, and why Earth at all? Just to bring it back to the Bob Lazar
for me, the
thing.
why Earth at all is the more interesting question, because I mean, how special are we really?
Right.
We seem like a bunch of fucking apes with pants on.
That's
but I mean,
literally what we are.
So I think it would become not humans, but the Earth itself may be interesting.
Well, what's so special about there are other planets that have a similar? We can assume that there are other planets that have a similar makeup to
found
Earth.
some, right? And they're not all that far either. They're
a couple of light years away from
right, which is close.
Only just a few light years.
No, but I mean that is close in terms of the universe.
Relatively speaking.
Yeah,
it is.
Couldn't our being like isn't it more conceivable that we're like at least trending towards becoming like a threat to other planets and things in the universe, like
the quarantine theory, hypothesis.
Yeah.
Aliens are just purposefully trying to avoid
we like to
us.
recklessly fuck with stuff just to see what happens, right?
The nuclear bomb being a prime example of that,
right?
No, I wouldn't think that threatens anything. Honestly, outside of the solar system, even, you know what I mean? We're not threatening anything other than ourselves.
No, but we've gotten to the point where we can send shit out to beyond our solar system now, right? The Voyager just passed the threshold and has left our solar system.
Or the probe that just smacked into the moon with a bunch of tardigrades on it. Let's see if they live, smash,
And they will, because they're little space piggies. Right? That's what those things are made for.
And so what we're talking about here is we're talking about whether there is another civilization out there. So that's another living thing that is bound by conditions for some kind of
bound by
some kind of conditions for some kind of life.
Yeah.
Right? And as long as we can actually just spit garbage out there, then all of a sudden we become something consequential to their existence.
I guess I can't really see that.
I can.
In the sense that we can't be anything more than a pop and zit in the solar system. You know what I mean? I don't see us having any capacity or power to do anything all that much. To on a large scale is what I mean. Other than to our own planet.
The ship we send into space isn't totally clean or whatever. They found bacteria on the space station that got ferried up there by one of these space capsules.
Right.
And
what if they're allergic to tardigrades and we just shot a big infection pill at them?
Right. Yeah.
Or what if
we're all peaceful about it, waving and playing records.
There's some free tardigrades.
Oh Christ,
as a gift.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So the hypothesis goes that we're being quarantined from the rest of the galactic civilizations because we're just shit. We're terrible people.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. But I still think that more highly civilized, or I shouldn't say civilized. Listen to me. More technologically advanced can combat that sort of a thing, right? They are just
But that's how they're
They are
doing it.
just
Your question was
They're
why would
smarter
we
than
be
us.
noticed, right?
We're being
We're
noticed.
being
for-
noticed
So
because
we're being
so
noticed
that
like
they
we're a
can
big-
actually take the action of preventing us from
Right. We're
being
like
consequential.
we're like this floating cold in space
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
people don't want to get. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's
stay
very
away from
easy
Earth.
for them to do something to stop us from being a threat, but they still are prompted to stop us from being a threat.
Right.
So
The-
aliens are responsible for the heliosphere, that
Maybe.
barrier that's preventing us from reaching on out beyond the solar system. Yeah, new conspiracy
Yeah.
theory.
What is this?
Right.
What is this? This sphere?
The heliosheath or heliosphere is it's just a part of the sun, really. Solar winds that create. The Voyager spacecraft just crossed it recently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Crossed past it or is
Past
now
it.
in it?
No, past
They
it.
just passed.
Past it.
Yeah,
couple
we
years
are in the heliosphere.
Okay, we are
Yeah.
in the helio. It just dawned on me that we don't have a name for our solar system.
Huh.
It doesn't have a name. Like
It probably has some kind of scientific designation.
like an NX dash.
Yeah, like an
173
MU1583SZ
Ned 7.
Bob.
I'm gonna go Ned 7.
Ned 7.
B.
So the next closest star over is
Proxima?
Proxima Centauri,
Yep.
which is part. Oh wait, so there's a star system. One of them is Alpha Centauri, and one of them is Proxima Centauri.
Oh, shit. Yeah, I think Alpha Centauri is the star and Proxima is the star system.
Okay,
I think. And then there's Proxima A, which is one of those
planets.
the planets they
Yeah,
found
and Proxima
orbiting.
B is the one that's in the habitable zone.
Right.
that they've-
Yeah. And the Light Sail project wants to send a probe out there.
Yeah.
This is the
So
one-
how fast can something propelled with a light sail go?
Fast.
Really?
Stephen Hawking came up with the idea of deploying the solar sail and shooting a laser at it, so it gets up to some ridiculous fraction of the speed of light, and it would get there within 30 years.
Oh
Within
wow!
30?
Yeah,
Because
the probe would reach Proxima
with,
B
like-
within 30 years.
Really?
with like
I had
current
no idea.
rocket propulsion technology that we use to get ourselves to Mars, for example,
That takes 9
that
months.
would take but it would to get to Proxima Centauri, it would take 30,000 years.
Yeah, but this light thing would get us there within 30-ish.
Wow.
I had
So
no
it's
idea.
1,000 times faster
Yeah,
than what
it's
we're
super
currently
cool.
using to take ourselves to Mars.
But think
Yeah.
about
Super,
how
super cool.
unfathomable that was when we were kids looking at science and looking at space travel and things like that. You know, like this is brand new shit coming at us here. That's fast, man.
Yeah, yeah. That like
So
the-
that must be really close to approaching the speed of light. Then I
it's
gotta think.
it's a fraction of, but it doesn't even come close to reaching the speed of light. It's pretty damn close, but it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't even.
Yeah, no
well,
kidding.
I guess what
30
I'm getting at is I
years.
had no idea that we could get that close, that
Theoretically.
fast in a sense.
They put up one of these Light Sail 2, I think, is up there right now, just sailing around on sunlight. But sunlight alone isn't enough to get us to that threshold where we would get to Proxima within 30. It's that we need a giant fucking laser to do it.
Did they not?
And how do you produce the energy to actually
I don't remember.
make that laser function?
I think they would put it in space and just have it shooting at the light sail forever, pretty much.
Right.
But it would take
But
a
you still
lot.
need
Yeah,
an energy source to produce the laser. Like,
yeah. I think it would be nuclear.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
This is something that I feel like someone like Tesla always touched upon, is that the power is already there.
Yeah.
It's just to be harnessed now, you know, and it's something that has been repressed on Earth.
Well,
Due
one of the other
Due to capitalism, I would say.
one of the other UFO conspiracy theories is that they make use of 0-point energy. They just suck the energy of the universe to use as their to power their vessels or whatever.
Right.
Which would be fucking awesome. Because it's a thing that exists.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what they say Tesla was working on?
I don't.
Nikola Tesla.
I think
Like with
so.
this thing about like just sticking a light bulb in the ground or whatever.
Yeah, that was cool.
Or is that just from The Prestige?
That was a great movie.
I know.
Well, come on.
Amazing.
Like David Bowie as Tesla, that's pretty awesome.
That was
Perfect
That was
casting.
perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bob.
Yeah, Bob.
Let's talk about
Back to
Bob.
Bob Lazar. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, he seems affable. And
the reason
stuff.
why we drifted off is because there is nothing we can really say, right?
About Bob.
To me, with Bob, his most interesting thing there is that his character, his I guess that you want to believe him.
Sure. Except I get turned off a little bit when he gets upset and a little bit suspiciously defensive about the holes in his
Well, you don't
history.
believe me? Fuck y'all.
Yeah, the whole like when specifically when people talk about his education and how there's no longer any record of any of that stuff that he says.
It's the government.
Do you remember that coming across in the
documentary? He gets upset at the documentary maker guy. Like why are you talking about this again? What matters is just.
What matters is the story. Let's talk about the story some more.
Yeah.
Okay, dude, it's part of the story.
So I don't know. I mean, I can. It's definitely reasonable to just think that he's annoyed with it coming up all the time, but it's also, a thing that when you're caught out on something, your weakest points is when you become most offensive, right?
In terms of technology that he did previously talk about that then came out to be true, we have the hand scan.
Oh, the hand
scan.
scan.
The hand scanner
The hand
thing,
scan.
yeah.
I mean,
Apparently
that did come to be,
Yeah, but apparently it was like...
He had described it, though.
Yeah, but it was widely used, so him knowing about it really isn't that... surprising.
Like, it was widely used, and we just didn't know about it until, a few decades went by, and then it was
Then it became
on
old
Facebook.
technology, and they started sharing it in other places, and we're like, hey, it's that thing. Okay. But that thing just happened to already just be a thing.
I see.
So not remarkable.
Right.
But people keep pointing to it like, see, I told you. So, what?
Right. Yeah, okay. All right.
That solves that one.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so honestly, looking for proofs, hard proofs, you just can't. You know, like I always bring it back to if that UFO lands in our backyard, what the fuck are we gonna do?
Right.
We just have a story. That's all we have, right?
I mean, it would be really great if he had gotten out of there with just a piece of something tangible.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's just one man's word against the world kind of thing.
See, if he'd really stolen a piece of
eyewitness
115.
testimony.
Yeah, exactly. Like if he had actually made off with a part of element 115.
Yeah.
Fucking get it tested. Like throw the results out.
Yeah.
Throw them.
Well, I mean, where can you get it
media.
tested?
Any lab.
Now,
Any
but
fucking
hold on,
lab.
no. If you take something that's unprecedented to a lab,
And then
they're
they'll be
just going to go inconclusive because we don't know what this is. Kind of thing.
Exactly. If they'll tell you it doesn't appear on the periodic table.
Right.
And that's the thing. If it's an undiscovered element.
But then what? Like that doesn't give us really any. It still doesn't give us anything solid.
Yeah, it does. It does because it's evidence that he has in his possession an element that's as of yet undiscovered to science.
Okay. Yeah.
That is something.
That would be something.
There he would have the story and that in addition.
And
but I mean,
something to
these things have occurred before, right? Do we not find things in archaeological digs that we can't explain and so they're just brushed aside? Is this not a thing that happens?
No, it's
like
not
this?
brushed aside. It's documented.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
What do you think? Are you thinking of anything in particular?
No.
But yeah, like a non-data point is still something to be recorded. These things are like if he did, like I said, discover an element and brought it in for testing, and they're like, we don't know what the fuck this is. That's a thing. That's now a result.
I guess what I'm getting at is that result that you're talking about would be much more difficult to get at.
How?
Who would he go to that would do it?
Just a lab. You can get shit tested at labs, pretty much.
Yeah, I had to send in all the drywall and stuff from my house before doing my renovations to get it tested for asbestos and shit like that.
Right.
So there's labs all over the place. They'll just take whatever shit you send to them.
But what I mean is that there
university.
you're still dealing with the realm of what they test, sort of thing.
Okay,
what I mean is that you really would just get back this inconclusive thing.
And
right.
Still,
right.
If for the specific example of this element that didn't exist before, right?
Yeah, and okay. So if they send back a result that just says inconclusive, that can easily be dismissed by just about anyone.
Yeah, but if it's this element, that's an actual result. Like, we do not know what this is. It's not. They're not saying it's inconclusive. They're saying this should not exist.
They're saying definitively this is not one of the elements that exists.
Exactly.
That we do know to exist.
Right.
And
This
that
is
we
an
can
alien
test
element.
for.
Yeah.
Have you guys read anything recently about how the octopus or even just marijuana has alien DNA and that it's from outside of Earth's biosphere? Like it.
I have not.
No.
I also
Next
have not.
time, I feel like I'm hammy-handed.
Next time.
Next time.
On Critical Junction.
What?
No, you've never heard this?
No.
Oh.
No, I haven't.
So
Well, I got nothing else. I mean, that's
Oh, well, okay.
So Rastafarian octopuses came to this planet.
smoking joints.
And seeded humanity.
Octopuses, octopi.
Octopi. Tell us more, Luke.
Hi.
Next time.
Yeah, next time.
Jeez. That would be interesting.
Yeah, so I guess I'm interested in. Yeah, we should look into that maybe. Because
Sure.
I mean, what do you do with that? How can you make this claim that something is from outside of our development on Earth? How would that?
Right.
There are ways of doing it. I don't know what those ways are because I'm not like a geologist or whatever. But like, there are common elements to things found on Earth. I'm not saying like elements as in the periodic table, but there are things you can test for that originate on Earth, and there are things that don't.
Uh-huh.
You can
And we have found things that came from outside
sure,
Earth.
like
It's
on
just not-
meteorites or comets or whatever. You can like there are metals that just do not originate on Earth that are part of them.
Okay.
That's something you can look for. Whether or not this alien/marijuana DNA thing is like, I would have to actually read it to know if that's a thing.
Marijuana octopus.
Marijuana
That's our
octopus.
next T-shirt. It's like
The marijuana octopus.
It's an octopus smoking
It's
a
our
joint.
official logo.
I love it.
But yeah, like I would love for this Bob Lazar story to be true. I'd love for an actual section of Area 51 to just be designated for backwards engineering
Well,
UFOs.
what you're really wishing for is not only that it's true, but that it's provably true. Because it may very well be true, but it doesn't give you shit.
Yeah,
So you're wishing, and it is true. There you go, it's true.
it's true. Now,
Why isn't it like with all the people that must have worked on this stuff, if the government did have it, why is this the only guy that's coming out
right.
with it? Is it
What does he get out of it? Like, what's the point of
is
coming
it because
forward?
everybody else they more successfully had stuff to hold over them to keep their mouths shut? And
So they just hire criminals so they
Because
can
I-
blackmail them later?
I mean, we haven't gotten into it yet, but this Bob Lazar guy has gotten into some other like shady stuff too, like
the brothel thing.
Yeah, didn't he have some part in a brothel business
Yes.
at one point?
And he was I think he was either arrested or imprisoned for it. Yeah, he.
Well, I think those were alien prostitutes, though.
Oh,
growing the
okay.
marijuana farm.
Octopi.
thing,
feeding
the
on octopi. But yeah,
Hey, actually, like speaking about octopi and marijuana, like I'm thinking about like edibles. I wonder if you could make like a nice marijuana oil fried octopus. Oh, wouldn't that be
Yeah.
yummy?
recombine the
Eh?
DNA.
Some double alien meal.
Totally alien meal.
I love it. Serving for Christmas.
I don't know if I've ever eaten. Octopus is chewy, right?
Yeah, it's kind of
Kind of chewy.
It's kind of chewy. Yeah. But it's yummy.
Hmm.
You can get it at the sushi place.
Final thoughts on Bob Lazar. I think we've
Okay.
reached that.
Well, I
point.
mean, we're interested, right? And like you said, you want it to be true.
Yes,
Yeah.
I am interested. I would like it to be true. And well, like you said, not only would I like it to be true, I would like it to be true and useful in some way.
Right. And I mean, that's what he's claiming as well. I would like this to come out so that we can do things with what we've learned from it. I mean, it seems that he would love that. Is that not what he's talking about in this documentary? He's claiming that these things exist and that we should know about it because it can help us, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Am I wrong?
It would certainly change the world.
Like what I'm saying is what you're wishing is what he also wishes as well. He wishes it were out and that people knew that it was true.
That we could use it
and that we could use
benefit of humanity.
Yeah. Which, you can make an argument that it absolutely would. We'd have a new energy source for one thing that would, it would put an end to the fossil fuel industry, which might fuel some other conspiracy theories about why they're holding it back to begin with. It could be the oil industry being like, no, fuck you.
Well, and there is evidence of that, right? Is there not? Like, is there not proof of the oil industry suppressing knowledge and things like that? Like, can we say that that's proof? Like, there is proof on Earth of that?
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. That's a thing.
So that is a real thing.
Oh, that's a huge thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can say that the suppression of knowledge, of better technologies, cleaner energy sources, has been taken away from us. Mm-hmm. And there is proof of this. We can say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Whether or not it extends to aliens... Who knows?
Right.
But, if it turned out to be the case, I would not be surprised. Like, if it actually turns out that the oil lobby is responsible for the government holding back
alien technology,
I would not be surprised.
Yeah. Well, and that's great. That's good. I think you'd still be a little bit surprised.
I'd be surprised about the existence of the alien technology.
Right. But not surprised of who held it back.
Right, exactly.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
Because of course they would,
I did recently find out that my nephew, when he was a child, saw what he calls an alien outside of his bedroom window.
Was it maybe not a baby owl? Like, have you heard about this? The people they're saying that it's a distinct possibility that people who claim to have seen aliens were actually seeing baby owls in trees. Just because if you've never seen a baby owl, they look like gray aliens with no feathers, and they look fucking weird.
Well, I'm pretty sure Whitley Strieber brings that up in Communion, because I do know that idea. Yes, yeah. Have you read that one? Because that first one, I think I read, like, he wrote a whole bunch. Of course, with the success of that one, he wrote a whole bunch until finally he ends with and now I'm going into fiction. His final book is, I'm going into fiction now of what I think happened back in the 50s kind of thing. And that's his last one. I can't remember what it's called. And I don't even know if it was his last one. It was his last one in terms of when I was reading them. I think I read like 3 or 4 of those kind of thing. Okay. And I did really enjoy Communion. Because, I mean, the guy's a novelist. He's got some experience writing a book. It's a good book, You can read it. And it's an easy read, But I think he delves into
the baby owl thing?
Yeah, the baby owl thing and seeing owls. Owls is a big part of I seem to remember the image of an owl in general in that book. Almost as if the alien was transferring, no, I'm an owl, I'm not an alien sort of thing into his mind. Right. So my nephew... claims that he looked out the window and there was a very large sort of bulbous pink thing floating at the window, and they were not on the first floor, so it was floating there in the window. Mm-hmm. But the interesting thing there is that he not only saw it, but his mother also saw it. And so they turned to each other and on occasion go, we saw that, didn't we? And yes, they saw a very strange thing floating outside of their window, which appeared to be a pink being with a face.
Wow.
A pink bulbous being, floating there. Huh?
I think I told you guys about my I've been wanting to have a UFO encounter forever, just because I've never seen anything.
You want to believe.
I'm Mulder in this one. I want to believe. But last year I was outside doing whatever, and I'm looking up at what I think to be like a triangular star formation. Just 3 stars up in the sky, and one of them starts to move towards the upper corner of this triangle thing. And then it moves back. And then it moves up again, and it's moving in ways that satellites don't move.
Yeah.
It was super weird, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, that's odd. And I'm trying to take...
And that's classic UFO. Like, you don't know what that was. That is unidentified.
Yeah.
That's not humanly possible in terms of what we know, in terms of what makes lights in the sky, and
it wasn't a star, it wasn't a satellite, and then eventually it just settled back into formation. Like, what the fuck? It was super weird, but it was moving around like no satellite should move around. It's obviously not a star because it would remain fixed in orbit,
Yeah. And this seemed to be, I guess you had no concept of distance there in terms
None
of that light or
whatsoever,
anything like
no.
that. No sound.
It just looked like one of the other little
Yeah, it
points
just
of light.
looked like another point of light that eventually started moving in really weird ways.
Yeah. As a kid, the first UFO that I ever saw was in broad daylight, and it was somewhat like following a satellite. But then it just shoots off, like
Right.
in a manner that's way too fast for anything that we could possibly do. Something akin to when you're shining like a laser at a cat and
Yeah.
you make it swing off uncontrollably to
Right.
drive them crazy,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Like it went off berserker styles. Like it was fast, man. And
Berserker
it
styles.
just disappeared, sort of thing. Like it made no
Yeah.
sense. Yet I followed it off, kind of thing.
Right.
Like,
Well, that's the weird thing about this one is it didn't. It was lazy in its maneuvers. It was just kind of lazily moving around these other two stars and then just settle back into its little corner. And I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck was that?
how long would you say that you watched it for?
A good 5 minutes.
Right, so that is long enough that in a sense it's not just a space station going by causing some tricks of the eye or anything like
Yeah,
that,
no.
because that's in a rotation around the Earth and keeps on going. Same with satellites,
Right.
kind of thing.
I've
It's
seen
not
the
gonna be
space
there.
station go by before.
Right.
You can tell that it's the space station
Yeah,
because
yeah.
of the trajectory. Like it lists the trajectory that it's about to take, and you can time it to take a look at whether or not the space station is going to zoom past your house.
Yeah,
But this was not that.
right.
Because it didn't stay in a straight line and just kept going. Like I said, it broke formation with the other two stars, did this weird thing for a little while, came back, and that was it. So I don't know what the fuck that was. But I finally had my UFO encounter. So cool.
And even having witnessed it, there is no way that you can record that to, in a sense, reveal it to someone as a proof.
Right.
Is another issue, like we talk about Bob Lazar, hey, how come we can't get a chunk of this or that sort of thing? Like, obviously this stuff is well guarded. What is he going to stick it up his ass? You know what I mean? Like,
Well, he claims to have taken a piece of it.
Of that element
Yeah,
115
he brought it
stuff.
home.
right.
So if you did,
In a stable manner? I mean, were
well,
we
that's the thing, right? Like, if it's that unstable, how did you get it out of there?
So in the documentary, when he's getting out his, doesn't he go into like his little shed and he gets out some stuff? Was that the stuff? Is this what he's claiming that was, or was this something else that he was talking about?
He was just talking about some other stuff.
Oh, okay.
I think, but he never produces this element.
So he removed it. Yet what did he do with it?
Right.
So he's
don't
claiming
know.
he did get it out.
And that's why he was claiming that that's why the documentary positions the FBI raid as they're coming for 115.
Right.
No, they're investigating a murder
Yeah. Okay.
that you have nothing to do with. that Vice ran an article about the raid. They accessed FBI records through a Freedom of Information Act request, and they
Okay.
produced this investigation. So they're like, that's why they went after his company.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's an investigation into a murder. Sorry.
Yeah. It still doesn't quite, in the sense, if we're always looking at proofs within proofs, it still doesn't quite disprove him.
No.
In the sense that, of course, they'd have their own cover story. Everyone has their own cover story.
Exactly.
And, yeah. It's a good story.
It's a great story.
And I love how it's not Area 51. It's like the one beside it. It's Area 52 is where all the action really happens.
Yeah.
It's like a shed on Area 51.
Yeah.
Where they keep element 115 on a shelf.
Yeah.
And can we say though that there is proof within those areas in the desert sky, in the Arizona sky, that weird light phenomenon is happening?
Yeah, weird shit happens.
Weird shit does happen there. It does seem to be experimental aircrafts or something going on in the sky that has been documented.
Yeah, I was reading an article by some scientist, and he was saying that it's likely a beam from a proton accelerator that these people were seeing around the time when he came out with this story. Because if
A weather balloon, yeah, gotcha. Right.
what? No.
No, I'm talking about like the original.
The Roswell thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he was saying the lights that you're seeing are probably artifacts from a proton accelerator because they behave in the same way that people were describing them. So it's not beyond the realm of reason to speculate that whatever is going on in Area 51, they could be using a proton accelerator as part of their experiments, which A, frightening, B, really cool. That'd be awesome.
So, Mark, as holding the position that you have, which is constantly looking for, like, in a sense, these absolute truths or proofs of things.
Not an absolute. Like, I'm a skeptic, which means I don't believe something until I'm presented with evidence to warrant that belief.
So, do you have any though that in a sense? I mean, and I guess this UFO is something, but what do you do when you have something that you've experienced but can't prove, in a sense?
Something I've experienced but can't prove.
Yeah, well, like this, I guess the
the star thing.
The star thing. The alien craft that you saw. No,
Which was clearly an alien craft, no doubt about
it. What do you do with that? Is there anything you can do with it?
Not really. I mean, there's no way I can investigate it.
Does it give you any satisfaction?
What do you mean?
Well, in a sense, it becomes a proof of something, but only to you. In a sense, you can't share it, right?
Well, it just means that I saw something that I can't investigate, so it's just a story or explain. So it's just a story.
Yeah. Does it give you any sort of satisfaction? Like, I just wonder what it would be like to you, if we leave, Jill and I, we pack up the gear here and we leave, and then tock, your front door, and it's a fucking alien. And then you're looking at him right there in the face, and he's going, hey there, shakes your hand. What's up, bro? You want some proof? Here you go. And then it takes off, kind of thing, he, she.
Okay, it. He, she, it. And then it leaves. Then I'm like, fuck, give me something.
You would want something.
I would want something.
You would want something as a proof kind of thing.
Right. Otherwise, it's just me telling a story and it doesn't really amount to anything.
And so what would you do with that is what I'm getting at, What can you possibly do after that experience? Like, would you just curl up in a ball and go, like, what the fuck? And what am I going to do with this guy,
I'd need some time to process what the fuck just happened. Mm-hmm. Then I'd set out to investigate the hell out of it. As much as I possibly could.
But we kind of already know that it can't be investigated, just like your stars can't be investigated.
Right. But if it were like an alien dude who shows up at my door, then I'd be like sweeping for DNA fragments or whatever.
Radiation.
Right, yeah.
And you're sending it off to labs and they're coming back, yeah, sorry man, inconclusive. and you're like, but that's something, right? Like, you're inconclusive. It's something? Give me something. You're searching for something.
Yeah, like if I were able to find a DNA scraping of this buddy who just visited my door, and they come back with, we don't know what the hell this is. They're not inconclusive, but we can't identify this strand of DNA. It's a triple helix or whatever. That's a thing.
Yeah.
Now I have evidence of weird triple helix DNA.
Now let's say you got nothing but the experience.
Nothing but the experience, like my star thing.
Yeah. So with the star thing, you're still telling the story.
Yeah.
Would you go out of your way?
No.
Would you go out of your way to try and tell people about it? Like, I saw this. And
no. If it came
because there kind of is nothing to do, right?
So
this can explain why people don't step forward, though. Because if they have nothing, what's the point?
Right.
You get the anomalies like
because
Bob
in
Lazar
that
do step forward.
You would have
but they got
definitive knowledge.
Yeah, I know something
and
happened.
belief at that point. No, if the alien actually came to the door and introduced themselves and all that kind of stuff, you would be like, okay, so literally aliens are a real thing.
I now know it. Personally.
It's a fact that I know. I can tell you about that fact.
Right.
But you have no way.
But we can't investigate it.
You become Bob Lazar. And you got nothing.
I've become Bob Lazar.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's true.
But it answers your question of why isn't there more people, you know what I mean? And it's because they don't have the thing with them,
Yeah.
Because you gotta take something with you.
Which is really funny because then you get the other side of the coin where people who claim to have seen this go out of their way just to say they've seen it or they've been abducted or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And yet they have no proof whatsoever to validate those claims.
But even with more mundane knowledge, it's just true that if you make some kind of claim to knowledge that everyone else can't have access to, then your credibility is automatically in question.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Like when I approach my wife that doesn't know she's my wife, and I'm going like, no, you're my wife. We love each other.
Yeah.
You're my soulmate. Oh, sorry,
that, of course, that would be a huge barrier for anybody coming forward with a story because everybody knows that if you make a claim to knowledge that nobody else can access, then you're suddenly seen as a crazy person. So I'll just keep it to myself.
Right. Right. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
what can you do with that story? You know, if it comes up in conversation, like you'll be the old guy who keeps telling his grandchildren, I remember a time I saw a UFO. Like that's,
Well,
you know, go to your deathbed with the knowledge that you experienced this thing, but you can't prove it.
I would think you would go crazy, Mark. Because
Me,
of who
personally?
you are, you would want to prove it. You would be fucking licking that door handle going, he touched it. I'm going to get something out of this. And it's going to be real. And I'm going to show y'all kind of thing.
Admittedly, it would bother the ever-loving crap out of me.
Yeah.
If I couldn't
You would
prove
go
it.
insane.
I might go a little bit crazy, yeah. I would go slightly insane.
And we'd be coming over doing these podcasts and you would be crazy, Mark.
I saw the alien!
And yeah, no one would believe you. You would be
Yeah.
be sitting across from yourself and that Mark would be going, yeah. So
Yeah.
with his arms crossed and yeah.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, exactly.
I
This
don't-
week on Critical Junction, Mark's alien visitor. And next week on Critical Junction, Mark's alien visitor. And the week after that.
I guess I'm curious about, when it comes to seeing a UFO or like how can we even create the proof or not create the proof, but what can we grab? What do we have to even grab a proof with?
See, that's the
You
thing.
know?
Like, you can tell the story and say you saw something, but beyond that, there's really nothing else you can do with it, right? Like, I'll believe that you saw something, because seeing things like it's well documented that people are seeing something. Something
Sure.
is going on. We don't know what that something is, but I'm not gonna dismiss the fact that somebody saw something unless they're just lying, you know.
Well, either it's a material phenomenon or a mental phenomenon, like a psychological phenomenon, which is still
Sure.
just as interesting.
Yeah, it's just as interesting.
Yeah.
If everyone is mass hallucinating, if you compare it to the miracle at Fatima or whatever, when the people claiming to have seen the sun dance around the sky and shit,
Right.
Yeah.
people experience something at that point.
Yeah, like
Just
how
like
many
people are
did that
experiencing
happen
something.
to?
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't know, a good few hundred maybe. I can't remember.
I think so.
Yeah.
Like 300 or so people,
Yeah.
and they all made that claim, like basically a village of people.
Well,
or
the
am I wrong?
problem with that particular claim is that through time, the numbers got fudged. You know, people are saying that all 300 people saw it, where it could have been just a couple of people, and they're like, yeah, hey, I saw it too, and then it just spreads like that, right? But with something like the Phoenix Lights, there's a set number of people who remember seeing something specific happening, and there's documented evidence of that thing happening in the sky. What that thing is, no idea.
That's a good one, right? I mean, they shot at it.
They shot at it. Right, yeah. People-
And people had heart attacks while shooting at it, and I'm pretty sure at
really?
least one person died.
I think the sheriff had to be like, don't shoot at the fucking thing, you know?
Well, no, I think that there was a heart attack death that stemmed from that, if
I
I'm
think
not
you're right.
mistaken.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like something big happened there.
Is that the one that Kurt Russell was one of the
Yes.
Yeah.
witnesses to?
Right.
He was flying around in his private plane and called it in.
Was it his private plane? I thought he was in the army.
I think it was. I don't know. I my memory was just that it was like him alone in a plane.
Was he like the little hound from Fox and the Hound going? "Oh!" You guys know that's him, right? That's Kurt Russell. Yeah. Okay. Good.
But
Sorry, I cut you off earlier, Jill, while you were talking.
I've been waiting for that apology.
that's a good one, though, Phoenix Lights.
Yeah. Next week. On whatever the show's called.
All right, let's wrap it up.
All right.
Anything to,
Oh my god.
anything to add?
Well, I would like to settle on the idea that at least in this episode I've made the claim that I think it's very possible that more technologically advanced civilizations exist out there. Like in my mind, this is a truth that we are young in the cosmos, and I mean, honestly, the cosmos may very well be infinite, and we have no perspective on time and all that shit. So I mean, come on. Like shit exists out there that we have no fucking clue, man. Like it's
I will agree to that.
way bigger than you think it is. We're really just circling a fucking letter on a page in a book, and we haven't even fucking looked at the book.
In a book, in a library,
Yeah.
on an island.
Yeah.
I will agree that there is shit out there that we just don't have a clue about.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
There's shit out there we don't have a clue about. And it's okay to not know.
That's the other part, right? I don't know is probably the best answer you can give when it comes to this kind of topic. Because beyond that, how are you making that claim to knowledge if there's shit that we don't understand?
Mm-hmm.
I'd be curious, Mark, because this, in a sense, is your podcast, and you're always looking for the proof. I'm curious, perhaps the next episode. It's like I want something that you're putting forward that you actually say, I do believe this, without a proof.
But that's nothing.
I wonder, because there are little things that we do believe that we don't realize we believe,
Like what?
And it's only when confronted with it. Well, I mean, we could look at something like romantic love, where you're going
there's evidence for romantic love.
No. But what I mean is these little beliefs, like no, that is the one for me, or something like that we get caught up in and stuff like that. I just mean that it's possible that we get caught up in these thoughts. Do some soul searching, Mark. I want you to try and find one where.
But I do that every day, and that's why I'm a skeptic.
I understand, but I guess I feel like I always think that our foundation of what we believe is rockier than it really is, right? We prop ourselves up on some shit that isn't necessarily true, and we believe it day to day.
I'd like to think I don't. Like,
I know you'd like to think you do.
But I make it a point to discard beliefs for which I don't have sufficient reason to hold those beliefs in. That's what makes me, by definition, a skeptic.
Yeah.
Right? The only ones that I really don't have justification for holding, aside from the fact that they work, are the logical absolutes. Because you can't demonstrate that beyond the fact that these things.
Oh wait, the
work.
logical absolutes. Those are those useless tricks that don't do anything.
Something like A equals A and that.
Yeah, the non-contradiction, law of identity.
Yeah, but that's like descending into
one.
abstraction kind of thing. Yes. That's wonderful.
But I can't think of a single belief that I hold that isn't warranted. Warranted. Justifiable.
I mean, I'm not talking about it serving a function. We have a lot of beliefs that serve a function that may not necessarily be
I'm not even talking
true.
about function either. I'm trying to think of like a belief in UFOs or whatever,
Yeah, that one's still out there though. It's almost like I want to find one that is more directly there in front of you, that we are using day to day, that isn't necessarily true. I mean, we're not scientists. We haven't done the research that we do believe in. Like, we're using belief more than we think we are. And we're relying on other people's research of the past to be our foundation that we walk on, right? Like, we...
But the thing with that, though, is the results within that science, the results are demonstrable. And that's what it keeps coming back to. Like, if you can demonstrate a thing, I will take that as justification for holding a belief that thing is what the thing says it is.
Yeah.
I'm not going to just believe something because it feels good for me. That's not how my mind works. Like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm going to believe something, I'm going to be convinced of that thing. And for me to become convinced of it, I need justification. I need demonstrability. I need, like, a valid reason to become convinced. I'm not going to be convinced of something just because it's, all rosy and like it feels fluffy on the inside. Like, no.
Luke, can you think of any beliefs that you have that you know not to be justified? But that you believe it, you hold it to be true.
I can't think very well ever, but but I'm gonna say little beliefs like the things that we think will make us happy, when really we have no clue. I give the idea of a romantic love, like I'm going to love this person and that will make me happy. These are examples of beliefs that we have that aren't necessarily the case. We have beliefs and they cause us to pursue things in one way or another, and we use them as tools from day to day and stuff like that. And they're kind of so small and so ingrained that they're very difficult to notice. But I would suggest these little things like the choices that we make that we think are going to make us happy, sort of thing,
Right.
are
Like, I'm
have
going to buy
absolutely-
this Philadelphia onion dip, and that will make me happy.
Yeah,
I
that,
believe that.
That one, in a sense,
And
is
then
tangible.
you
The
do,
whole eating of it,
And it doesn't.
yeah, right. It's not good enough.
And then it most certainly does not.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Like, I'll try and come up with a big one. Maybe I can do some soul searching and see
Yeah.
if there's any. I mean, honestly, because I'm more willing to just go, you're right, I'm absolutely stupid, kind of thing. You know, like, I really don't know, and I may be dreaming right now. Like, I kind of live my life like that. I'm a little bit more living on the cusp of, like, intuition sort of
Of
thing, and just
insanity, I thought you were going to say.
yeah. No, but I mean, the way that I live my life.
Intuition. Oh, okay.
Oh, all right.
Well, I do think I'm a little bit more
little bit
insane,
insane.
a little bit more insane than other people, in the sense that I don't think I use logic in the same way. I'm not thinking out my day and going, this is what I'm going to do, and these are the people I'm going to have relationships with.
You're more fly by the seat of your pants kind of thing.
I
You're
guess-
feeling out your day.
I guess so. Yeah, I'm a little bit more.
as it comes.
Yeah, a little bit
Meanwhile,
more
I'm over
spontaneous.
here rocking out with my Spock out.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, we live our lives very
Rock out
differently.
with your
like,
Spock out.
yeah.
I've not heard that before.
This has been Critical Junction episodes. Am I cutting you off here?
Oh yeah, no, sure. I had nothing the whole time. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Jill, anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right, as I was saying, this has been Critical Junction episode 71. I'm Mark.
I'm Mark.
I'm Mark.
We're all Mark today. As always, thanks for listening, and until next time, keep thinking critically.